he kept telling me, you must write my biography. It's a very, because when he used to tell me stories about his childhood, it's quite unbelievable. It's because,
quite harsh.
Very harsh. The people you grew up reading about, whether it's Naseeruddin Shah, Sham Benegal, you're either dining with them or they're in your house, it was like, oh my God. So, I mean, he really, it was fabulous. He loved Omji's work, and he would come out sometimes in a crowd and say, I enjoyed that film. I feel so proud when I see one of your films abroad, I feel so proud. So Shabana had one look and said, तुम दोनों का कैसे हिम्मत हुई ये शक्ल लेके films करिए. So, and then Shabana at that time had a little bit of a buff, So Naseer being Naseer saying, और शबाना जी ऐसे हमेशा ऐसे कैसे क्यों हंसते हैं? So I started writing it because her lawyer, Pradeep Bhatnu, who was a friend, who came to see me, it's a terrific story, please write. And I said, I don't want to get jacked. You're hitting on so many international organizations, like the Vatican.
Adoption agencies.
Yeah, the adoption agencies in India, US, the airlines who are trafficking them, the Vatican.
Why the Vatican?
They are also involved in child trafficking. UNICEF to a point, and the Illuminati.
Hi, Nandita.
Hi.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and happy to catch up with you after.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yes, it has.
Of course, everybody is fascinated with your books, and you've written 4 of them. One is a collection of short stories. One is Personal Individuality, where obviously you did the difficult task of juggling your personal closeness to the subject, as well as managing to write a biography constantly. One thing that stood out when I was researching about the book Unlikely Hero, Om Puri, is that you mentioned it took you almost 16 years from concept to fruition.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
So my meeting with Om Puri was when I was assigned to interview him for the Telegraph newspaper in Calcutta. And this was while he was shooting for City of Joy in Kolkata. He and Patrick Swayze and all of them. So that's when I met him, and of course, as they say, the rest is history. We fell in love, and while we were quoting, I think he was very. He kept telling me, "You must write my biography." It's because when he used to tell me stories about his childhood, it's quite unbelievable.
It's
because
quite harsh.
Very harsh. He started out as, there were 8 brothers and sisters, they all died, only 2 survived. He was the youngest and the oldest, and there was a 12, 13, 14-year difference between him and his older brother. And when he was 6, he worked in a tea stall to put food for the family on the table, and he's been working ever since, something or the other, and he's been a workaholic. I remember 2 days before he passed on, he said, I don't want to ever sit. I want to go home. And he went actually home. So he was a workaholic. And he's been working, and he never made such a hue and cry, fuss about it that I've been working. I was working in a tea stall, nothing of this.
Many times he didn't even have food to eat.
Exactly, Sham Benegal, when I was interviewing him for the book, he said, I've known Om from the days when he didn't know whether when he was going to have the next meal, or whether the next meal was coming at all. So that was and he kept telling me, my childhood, of course, when I met him, he was very successful. He had won many awards, and he was quite a star, but he said, the thing is, he always empathized with people, the working class, that's where he came from. And so he always said, my childhood has been so harsh. It's like Charlie Chaplin's childhood. So the focus on the book was childhood, of course. But then I said, listen, if I have to write, I can't just write a bit about your childhood. I have to write about your whole life. Because Om Puri, Naseeruddin Shah, Shabana Azmi and Smita Patil, they were the 4 pillars of the parallel or the art cinema. They are the stars and the four pillars. You couldn't do without, and they were the they really set the screen ablaze then. I said, and you all have done amazing work with amazing directors and filmmakers. So, and that is a very difficult thing. It's not, when you're a cub reporter, you know things at a very superficial level.
Right. You're too young.
So I said, someone like me to write about you and your work and your contemporaries would be very unfair and unjust. So I said, no, I don't think I can do that now. So it was, then I started traveling with him all over. I was doing a lot of films in England and US and Hollywood and the British cinema, because he's the only Indian actor to be awarded the Order of the British Empire by Her Majesty the Queen of England, and perhaps the first Indian actor to be honored in the Oscar Memorial. He was the first Indian actor. So, when you have done so much of work and I travel, people I'd read about in childhood, I never thought I'd meet them, whether it was Jack Nicholson or Tom Hanks or Michael Douglas or, Helen Mirren, your Julia Roberts. You just read about these people and then you pinch yourself, Christopher Plummer, oh, there he is, that kind of stuff. And then the people you grew up reading about, whether it's Naseeruddin Shah, Sham Benegal, you're either dining with them or they're in your house, it was like, oh my God. So from a journalist start. So, and then of course, when I moved in Calcutta, I was a features person who wrote on art, cinema was one of. But when I came to Bombay, I started writing for Midday. I had a column for Midday called Potpourri.
Okay.
It was a weekly column on cinema. And it was, I wrote every week for 8 years. Then I got saturated because I thought I kept repeating a lot of stuff. And that's when I said, okay, that's it. I took a sabbatical and the sabbatical went on 10 years. So that is after that I felt I was a little qualified enough to talk about, apart from Om Puri, his life and his work. Because it's not just I'm talking about the man, I'm talking about his work.
Right.
So that is why it took me 16 years.
Wow. That's our story.
Yeah, that's our story. And Om at one point said, every 3 years he would say, "Arey, kya ho gaya? You were supposed to do the..." I said, yeah, happening. So after about 10, 12 years, you see, I don't think you're writing. You're not serious. And by that time, I had already, signed with a publisher.
Okay.
And so he felt, okay, chalo, she's writing. Then again, I was gathering because that time I said, okay, now I have to write. Now the scene. And then it becomes very difficult when you're married to somebody.
Try and be detached.
Be detached because all your personal thing is going to seep in. And then you know the person so much that you want to put in everything and everything is not going to be. In fact, this book, Unlikely Hero, was double the size.
Really?
Yeah. So my editor made it half. I said, what is this? He said, don't worry, I've added everything, but you need it. So sometimes when I go through it, I feel there are
I wouldn't have minded anything about double the size.
Yeah.
If I'm reading about
exactly.
I wouldn't have minded.
There was so much of, about his films, about various things. So that is why anyway, it happened. And, yeah. And it went into translations also. There's one in Hindi, Malayalam, Marathi, and Punjabi.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And so, like I read whatever I read of the book, there's some part which is stayed with me. You mentioned Naseeruddin Shah ji and him are very close friends.
Yeah.
So I read this incident where apparently he saved his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Om Puri ji saved
Naseer and Om. Naseer met Om in NSD, National School of Drama, Delhi. And Om and there was another friend of his from Punjab called Jaspal. So the three of them used to hang around. After NSD, Naseer went to the Film and Television Institute in Pune. Om joined a year later. And there was the three of them, Jaspal, Naseer and Om used to hang around a lot. And both Naseer and Jaspal would smoke up from, Dam Maro Dam. And I don't know what was exactly the reason, whether it was, how when you're young,
hot-blooded.
Yeah, hot-blooded over something or the other. So Om was sitting in the Punjab restaurant on Linking Road. Naseer. So Naseer was sitting and he was having, and Om was supposed to...
Mini Punjab.
And Om was supposed to... No, it's on Linking Road. Is it Mini Punjab?
I'm not sure.
I am one of them. So Naseer was sitting and Om was supposed to join him for dinner. And Jaspal actually got a chaku and he went and he went to stab Naseer. He was stabbing Naseer from the back. Om went and pulled Jaspal. He happened to be there. And he missed his spine by a few millimeters. But Naseer was bleeding profusely, but Om managed to take him to the hospital. If Om was not there, I don't think, because Jaspal was too high and he would have stabbed several times. So one of them would have hit him at a very crucial place, and then he took him to the hospital.
He was lucky that he was there, so
yes. So there are times when Naseer says, there are times, though Naseer has two other brothers and they're fabulous, but wonderful men. But Naseer says that there are times when I'm closer to Om than I'm to either of my brothers, and Om says to me, it's been a very brotherly equation with Naseer. And that love, hate, going up, going down, everything,
And he, of course, wrote a foreword for the book.
Yes, he did.
Right?
He wrote a foreword, and he always likes to add his own to it. But I love Naseer that way. I love the way he writes.
Right.
So...
it's so amazing reading your book about all these anecdotes about Bollywood legends.
Yeah.
And there's one which I think turned the life of Om Puri around.
Absolutely.
He replaced Amitabh Bachchan and Anish.
Yes.
So how did that happen then?
So I think in 1983 or 82, when Govinda was thinking of Amitabh Bachchan was a huge star. Om Puri, nobody even knew him because he came out of FTII. He did one or two small films. And he was basically, Govind saw him in Prithvi Theatre, in a play. And he said, he's a good actor. He kept him in mind. But he went to Amitji, wanted Amitji to play the role of Anand Velendkar, which Omji played. And he said, I have no dates, Then 10 years later, I think again he wanted Amitji to play Droga.
10 years later?
10 years later. 83, 93. And I remember interviewing that time, Govind, and I said, I believe you wanted Amitji still didn't have dates. Finally, 10 years after that, in 2003, he got Amitji to play in his film Dev, along with Om Puri. So Om said, Govind, I'm not doing any more of your films. What is this? Every time I'm like a second thing. So I remember when they were doing Dev, so he said, Amitji, I have to tell you something. So yeah, tell me. And Amitji really, it was fabulous. He loved Omji's work, and he would come out sometimes in a crowd and say, I enjoyed that film. I feel so proud when I see one of your films abroad, I feel so proud. So I remember, he goes and he says, Vijay, I really have to thank you a lot. He said, yeah, why? He said, without you, I won't be where I am. So he said, oh, really? What did I do? He said, oh, you don't know what. And he really built up the whole thing. So by that time, Amitji was doing his makeup and he was getting a little impatient. What is it? He said, you refused to do Aditya Satya. He said, I did. Because he was so busy, he probably didn't even know about it.
Did you realize it?
He didn't, his manager must have said no. So he said, you refused it. Oh, I did say, yeah. If you hadn't refused Aditya Satya, if you had done it, I would never have got to do Aditya Satya. And that was a turning point in my life, in my career. So he said, you know what? I'm glad I refused because you did a far better job than me.
That's really
yeah.
since this is the bio you have written, I'd love if you could read something out.
Yeah,
if
surely.
you're comfortable with that.
Yes. So, as we spoke about his harsh childhood, I'll just read the beginning.
Patrick Swayze wrote in the foreword.
Yes.
He looks like a man with a lot of hurt in him.
Yes.
It's like, okay, that's really deep.
He said, you look into his eyes, that's what Patrick Swayze said about Om, and you read volumes. That is the kind of power he has as an actor, Then, Om Puri was born in Ambala, then in Punjab, now in Haryana, without a doubt, but there is a dispute regarding the date and year of his birth. There is neither any birth certificate nor any other record about it, and the year could be 1949 or 1950. And his mother Tara Devi always told him that he was born 2 days after the Shera. Later, when he joined school in Sanaur near Patiala, his Mama Ji, or maternal uncle, picked up 9th March 1950 as his birth date and year. That stuck as the official date. Years later, around 1976, when he came to Bombay, Om decided to give himself a new birth date. He looked up 2 days after the Shera that year and decided to keep 18th October as his birthday. And since then, that is the day he celebrates with friends and family. So at times, he receives birthday cards twice a year. So from all the official things. It took him so long to decide on a birthday because he never had the occasion to remember or celebrate it throughout his school and college years, apart from the fact that his mother made kheer 2 days after the Shera each year while she lived. No fancy parties or dinners, just a bowl of simple kheer made at home to celebrate the birth of one of India's finest actors. As many years later, his friend and colleague, actor Naseeruddin Shah, was to remark, Om was born with a wooden spoon in his mouth.
Do you, as his biographer, feel that the tough childhood he had, just to be born with a wooden spoon in his mouth, helped in his,
Absolutely. I mean, he could, and especially the kind of roles he played initially, the parallel art cinema had all these very angst and the lower class people, the farmers, yes. So he could portray that so well because he came from that background, And then, of course, he always said he trained 3 years at the National School of Drama and 2 years in FTII. So he said, if you're an actor, your training has to come in. He always believed it. Okay, there is some amount of method, some amount of practice. Like when he did City of Joy, he actually pulled a rickshaw. And he had 2 people sitting and he would,
He actually did that.
Yeah, for 8 kilometers a day for 2 weeks he pulled a rickshaw. So much so early in the morning he would leave from the back door of the Oberoi to Grand in Kolkata, and he would, after 3.5-4 kilometers, he would stop at a tea stall. So one day while he was having that kullar wala chai, so there was this one gentleman who was sitting there. He asked the owner, doesn't that guy look like Om Puri? So I said, no, I don't think so. That's Om Puri. He just looks like Om Puri. So they kind of discussed. And then while Om finished his chai, he kept his thing and he said, Dada, I am Om Puri. And he went. And as he was pulling the rickshaw, he heard the owner say, oh my God, he used to be such a fabulous actor. Look at what is reduced to today. He's become a rickshaw puller. That was
his conviction.
The conviction with which he pulled the rickshaw. And he rode
actually Bev.
Yes.
There is also one more thing that you have mentioned, where you said that Shabana Azmi told him and Naseeruddin Shah that with faces like yours, who was going to give you all the
bandars, because they were scruffy and they were scrawny and they None of them had enough food to eat, no work, nothing. And then they didn't have the regular looks of the era, the chocolate boy looks.
Right.
So they all look very different if it hadn't been for all these art film directors like Shyam and Govind who came at that time, Saeed Mirza and all, Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen. These guys would not have seen the light of day,
Right.
So anyway, so Shabana had one look and said, तुम दोनों का कैसे हिम्मत हुई ये शक्ल लेके films करने. So and then Shabana at that time had a little bit of a buff, So Naseer being Naseer said, और Shabana जी ऐसे हमेशा ऐसे कैसे क्यों हंसते हैं? So it was
They're all friends.
Yeah, they're all friends. They're buddies. I remember when Om passed on, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, he came and he said, I cried for 2 days. Because people come to Bombay to be a film actor, they see Amitabh Bachchan, they see Dharmendra. I came after seeing Om Puri and Naseeruddin Shah. They were my inspirations. So for me, it was a huge loss.
But it is not just how you look, it's your talent,
Yeah.
your hard work, and
Yeah.
you can still achieve.
Yeah, because when he joined FTI, Girish Karnad was the director and there was this whole panel and he gave his interview and everything. And after that, when they were discussing, they said, how can we take him? He doesn't look like a hero. He doesn't even look like a villain. Not even a comedian. What can we do? What? So Girish Karnad said, listen, it is none of our business. What he does, how he survives. He's given a good, audition. So we should take him. And then how he survives, and he survived in all the genres, I think.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And
He's even danced around the tree with Madhuri Dixit and Anuradha Patel in Dharavi. He dances around with Madhuri Dixit when she was at, And then, of course, he's been the hero of parallel cinema, the cop, the anti-hero, the villain, and Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, and all the comedies of Priyadarshan.
Right. Right.
Nowadays you see Priyadarshan's films and you see all Om is at his
He's
comical best.
So he's actually a Bollywood legend who didn't just remain a legend.
Yes.
He was there all the way,
Yes.
like you said. He passed away in 2017, but he was booked date-wise.
2007 January,
Right.
his dates were full till 2022.
So he also continued in contemporary
Absolutely.
Bollywood cinema.
Absolutely.
So what did he have to say about the changing face of Bollywood cinema? Like, was he challenged by it? Was he amused? Was he happy?
See, when he started off with Shyam Benegal and Govinda, they were very organized directors. And then slowly, when he started winning awards, so the mainstream, he started getting commercial, this thing, and he found commercial cinema completely crazy. There was no bound script, and then the heroes would come in
Be around say, chill.
6-7 घंटा बाद, कभी 2 दिन बाद, outdoor shooting में. Yeah. The other day I met Govinda, I said, Arey, we used to wait for you, na? You used to come to this. We used to do 3-4 shifts. He said, 3-4 shifts, Bobby. I used to do 6-7 shifts. वो 2-2 घंटा हम प्रसाद के लिए, they were like that. So these guys were, NSD prepared, FTI, and they had to wait. It's sad, but they had to. But he was very cheesed up because there was no script, no nothing. And then he was simultaneously doing the Hollywood and the British cinema, where everything, like I remember when he was working with Jack Nicholson, they would have their call sheets, they would have a second backup. Suppose today, in case it rained, then they would have a backup of indoor. In Bollywood those days, they had, okay, chalo, aaj outdoor karte, barish ho gaya, sab log jao, backup, unit ghar jao. So it was an unexpected holiday, which he was very shocked. Much later, I think during the shooting of Dawn 2, Farhan's, the first Dawn in Kuala Lumpur, that is when I saw Excel doing that kind of, methodical shooting. They had the backup. So, and people just, the whole unit went to Switzerland, the whole hero's family went, and the extended family went. Mood nahi hua to wapas aa jao. So, these guys couldn't handle so much of it. But I guess one thing with Om Ji was And a writer, a very well-known film writer, Ambarish, he was home the other day. He was saying, a lot of actors, contemporaries of his, I'm not naming them, they would do, if they had to do a comical role, they had that very condescending attitude. He never had that. He enjoyed doing everything. It wasn't that he was very proud of it, but he did it with a lot of respect. And he always said, so what, it's commercial. If I have done it, I'm getting paid for it. And it's my Lakshmi, and I don't want to, ever say, oh, that is not a nice film. There are lots of actors nowadays who they do a film, commercial, and then they say, oh, this was not right. I shouldn't have done it.
They ban it openly.
It is bad, and that's not right. Then you shouldn't have done it in the first place. So if you're doing something, if you're being paid for it, you're doing a professional job, you should treat it professionally. And that's what he always said that.
You're also the chairperson of the Om Puri Foundation, right? That's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And tell us more.
So, as I said, Om came from a very deprived background. We spoke about it. And he always empathized with people. In fact, I came from a very middle class, a normal, what would you call, entitled background. So we don't think about it. But he used to think about the road signals, the crossing, he would tear up. And all our staff who've been with us, whether the driver, the maid, my son's nanny or everybody who's been with us for 20, 25 years, he has ensured that each of them has a house, a roof over them. He's bought each of them, So he's educated his relatives, his extended this thing. And he always said charity begins at home. We should do. And the two closest people, the two kinds were, one were the farmers. Because he came from a farming background. So he was very close to the farmers, and he said, they are the backbone of our country. And the second was the karikars and the weavers. So he played a character in Shyam Benegal's film Susman, where he learned to weave and he wove 20 meters of cloth.
Himself?
Yeah.
And he's
And he wove a shirt for Govinda, for Shyam, dupatta for Shabana, who played his wife, and the wedding shirt he wore was woven by him. So, so he said they are the, we need to give these two people importance because that will make our country self-reliant. And that's why when he passed on, the idea of the Om Puri Foundation, which we launched in 2017 at Cannes, at the 70th Cannes. And one of the things was to carry his legacy forward. His 350 films of all genres, his Bharati Khoj, which should be in film festivals, tamas, in schools, colleges, universities. So that was one of the things to keep his legacy going. So during COVID, what I did is I kept taking numbers, bank account number of the dabbawalas, of farmers, kisans, or wherever I was. I would take their name, account number, IFSC code, and I would directly transfer. And for this, we collaborated with various organizations. For the weavers, like the Dastakars, they have a bank. The dabbawalas, they have their bank. So I said, give me your 50 most deserving. Then we went to another 50 and another 50. And we did this in all spheres, and we still do it now. We like to transfer it directly so that it doesn't go through any organization. 70% doesn't get cut.
Okay.
They get the full whatever.
So the beneficiary gets in. And your latest book, that is Jennifer, is about a really, I think, a traumatized person.
It's a very traumatized person. It's basically about child trafficking and inter-country adoption based on a true story of a girl who was trafficked out of India as an 8-year-old under the garb of adoption and sexually abused by her white American father. Then she was shifted to another house. By the time she was 10, she was again sexually abused. And then she changed foster homes in the US. And 50 of them. And
50 foster homes?
Yes.
Forward.
Yeah. And the US foster care is the worst foster care system in the world. After that, when she was 18, she came out of the foster care system and she married a she dated a fourth generation drug addict, a drug hustler, I would say, and an addict. And they were hustling. And then she married him. They had 2 kids. And they were still hustling cocaine when they got, caught. And it was after 20 years. She went as an 8-year-old. And when she was 28, because she changed so many homes and, her citizenship was never processed. So, America being, US being what it is, it's one rotten apple, let's take it and throw it back to it. That's wrong. And the Indian ambassador there, being either dumb or, we have this habit of bowing to the white man, so say, give it back. But he shouldn't have done it. This girl at 8, she's an American, she speaks American. She doesn't know anything about India. So she had to be thrown into Bombay, shackled. And she didn't know anything, she didn't have a passport, she didn't know anything, and somehow she managed to survive. And then there was a lawyer who came and helped her, but she had to leave with children. They were about, I think, 6 and 4 then. And it's been another tough 20 years for in India, and she can't go back because she's got a 20-year blanket, not going back to the US. The fault lied with the Indian embassy because they should have told America, the US government, okay, fine. She's a rogue, put her behind bars, let her serve a sentence, then bring her out and process the papers. If you've taken her in, you have to process her papers. You can't just send her back after 20 years. So and here also she got back into drug hustling. She was again put in bipolar jail. So there's been a whole this thing with her, and I started writing it because her lawyer, Pradeep Patnu, who was a friend, who came to see, it's a terrific story, please write. And I said, I don't want to get jacked. You're hitting on so many international organizations, like the Vatican.
Adoption agencies.
Yeah, the adoption agencies in India, US, the airlines who are trafficking them, the Vatican.
Why the Vatican?
They are also involved in child trafficking, UNICEF to a point, and the Illuminati. Because child trafficking is the most profitable business in the world, and a female child is far more profitable because
For
obvious reasons. So it is, and children are trafficked for sports in Arab countries, for organ transplants. But a female is just made to produce and produce and produce it. So it's terrible. It's worse than a drug cartel. So, and some of the most powerful people in the world, which everyone thinks Illuminati is Dan Brown's. No, Illuminati is not Dan Brown's. It's very much there. And the European royalty, the church people, the Vatican, your US senators, hedge fund owners, they're all involved in this. And this is where I, through Jennifer's story, I pull out these organizations. So luckily, it was my lawyer who went through all the thing before. I said, I don't want to get,
There's this feeling, of course, we hear talk about Illuminati, but a lot of people, like you said, are just like, no, that doesn't exist.
It does. It does. Very much in India also. We have some of, without naming, some of our A-lister actors are part of the Illuminati. Yeah. There are, meetings and all.
The book sounds beautiful and painful, especially since you mentioned it's based on a real person's story, right? I don't know how a story ends. I hope it ends.
As of now, we are hoping that in another couple of years she'll be able to go to the US.
But thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And
Enjoyed talking to you.
it was lovely, and we really loved listening to you read as well.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Absolutely.